Let me see what all we have completed so far. So we have completed this one, and today we are going to do this one. Okay, so we have completed traveler assistant activity, main, expense activity, expense item activity, broadcast receiver, intent sample, and preference activity. Today we are going to cover the database part, and then we are also going to cover a service part as well in some sessions. So let us start with that. So traveler assistant version 7, we are going to cover Android SQLite 3 database storage. So in this one, what we are going to do is that basically all the expenses, if you remember, every time I was restarting that application, that all the expenses which I have added to the system goes away, because there is nowhere else, nowhere I could store that data really. Because if I store into the variable or somewhere, when I restart, it is all gone. So now is the time that that expense window or expense item activity can store the data into some database, so that next time when I start, I get the value. Now, before that, we'll understand about database, and there is a concept called helper class, adapter class, and we'll write code, basically change the code written earlier for this activity in expense item activity to use the two database classes created in step 1 and step 2 to store expense data in database. So, and check if the database got created or not in emulator file system, test and run the expense item activity class. And so that is pretty much what we are planning to do. But before that, why don't we just discuss about what is SQLite database? SQLite database is a very lightweight database, and it is used all over the world uh, by millions and millions of applications. Especially in the mobile world, it is used very much. So most of the mobile platforms use SQLite database. Mozilla uses SQLite database. Thunderbird uses SQLite database. Pretty much there are millions and millions of examples where SQLite database is used. So if I have to just put down that who all uses the SQLite database, so SQLite database is used by most of the mobile platforms like Android uses it, iOS uses it, and I'm pretty sure that some other platform also uses it. Now Mozilla browser uses it. Millions of websites and lot of network management applications, they also uses it. Email softwares, lot of email softwares uses it. So SQLite database is not a completely new database which was invented just few years back, and people are aware of. This has been for a long time. This pretty old database system, pretty old database system. Pretty old database. So it is not something very new, and its thinking and process has come from the old kind of a database, something like DBase and Foxbase, those kind of a database, where it used to be a single user and all. So SQLite database is most of the mobile platform uses it. Mozilla browser has it, millions of website, network management applications, email software, pretty old database. And if you want to read a little bit more about SQLite database, what you could do is that you could also go to the website called, and it is an open source database. So you can go to the SQLite database website. It is an open source database, and you can read a lot about this one. SQLite is a in-process library that implements a self-contained, serverless, zero configuration transactional SQL database engine. So if you want to read a lot about this, you can definitely come here and figure out what is going on. You can download the SQLite database, but for you, SQLite database is already there inside Android, so you don't really need to download this one. Okay, so no need to download this one, and you can figure out a lot of other things. But if you want to write some Java application or C application or C++ application or some other language, and you want to use SQLite database, you can very well download it from here. So that's pretty much about the SQLite database, and you can read about the SQL syntax, functions, and there are C++ interface spec, and a lot of other things is there. So well-known users who uses SQLite database, think about that. That is interesting part. So Adobe uses SQLite database. Airbus confirms that SQLite is being used in the flight software for the A350XWB family of aircraft. So think about this. If SQLite database was not very stable and secure, would they use it in Airbus? Apple uses SQLite for many functions within Mac operating system, including Apple Mail, Safari, and in Aperture. Apple uses SQLite in the iPhone database, iPhone as well. So SQLite database is used all over the place. Dropbox uses it. SQLite is primary metadata storage format for the Firefox web browser. Thunderbird email reader. Google, Intuit, McAfee uses SQLite in antivirus programs. So let's see this. So if you are new to SQLite database, what I would suggest you is that you might want to do a little bit of a reading about SQLite database and just get an understanding of what it is, because it's pretty powerful database. Although it is a lightweight and it has its own area, and it does not compete with Oracle and MySQL. So never ever try to directly do a comparison between SQLite and MySQL, Oracle SQL Server or MySQL World of Database, because they are completely for two different kind of applications. Okay. Now, what do I mean by two different kind of application? Well, let us see that. So what we are going to see next is that what do I mean by two different kind of application? What is difference between SQLite database and MySQL? What is same between SQLite database and MySQL? Here is the difference. So these are some basic differences. But SQLite database versus regular DBMS. What SQLite means is that it runs in the same process as application as an embedded database. But regular RDBMS database runs in a separate process. So when you run MySQL or SQL Server or Oracle, it starts its own process. But when you run the SQLite database, it does not start a new process. It runs inside the same process in which your main application is running. So it is called in-process database. Can it run standalone as a server and so that multiple applications can access it? No, it cannot. But regular database, you can create a standalone as a server and multiple applications can access. SQLite is a very lightweight, but regular RDBMS database are very resource intensive. It requires a lot of hard disk, lot of RAM, lot of CPU, and all those things. SQLite database concurrent write is not possible. Concurrent writes are possible. So in SQLite database, concurrent write is not possible. So if there are multiple users or so, it is not possible. And that's why in the world of like email client or the mobile phone or the browser, there is never a case that 3 different user is using the same browser or 4 different user is using the same phone. And that's why SQLite database works fine. But if it is a supply chain management software where there are 200 users accessing the same system at the same time, obviously SQLite database will not work. And that's why they say that, okay, let us use something like Oracle or MySQL or Sybase or DB2 or Microsoft SQL Server. So that's pretty much is the basic difference. Now there are few simple things like syntactically that which are not supported in SQLite and which are supported in regular RDBMS. One of them is called right outer join or full outer join is not implemented. Alter table operations like drop column and all is not supported. So this is some of the things which are not supported. Right outer join, full outer join, drop column, alter column, add constraint, and so forth are not supported. And obviously we say cannot run standalone as server, can run a standalone server. Concurrent writes not possible, concurrent writes possible. And it is an in-process database, it runs in a separate process. So these are the very basic differences about RDBMS. Now, once after this one, what the other way to understand is this, is let us assume that you have a application A. So you have application A, and this is your SQLite database, and this is MySQL database, and you have application A as well here. Okay. Now, if it is a SQLite database, this will run in the same process where this application A is running, so it will run here itself. But in this case, this will run in a separate process. Okay. So this is a process, and this is also a red color is, I'm drawing it as a process. Okay. Now, what happens is that in this case, there is a process-to-process communication happens. So this database is running on its own process in MySQL world, but here your database and application is running in the same process. Now, if there is another application B, or another application C, you can have application C. Now, all of these guys, 3 guys, can be running in 3 different processes, and each can talk to this guy. But this is not the way in SQLite database works. If you want like that, then each one need to have its own process and their own database. So what it will do is that it will create application B. You have to create application B and put its own database here, and put its own database here. So that is the basic difference between SQLite and Oracle or MySQL or Sybase database. So there can be a database will run on a separate process here, and this runs on a separate process, and various other applications can run at a time, and then they can access it. But in the SQLite database, each application will have its own in-process databases.